All right, let's get right into it. We're tackling a really big, really important question today, one that cuts right to the core of our economy. Why are so many men having such a hard time in the job market? We're going to dig into what the research says are the huge forces reshaping what work even means for men right now.
So here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we need to understand this widening gap in the labor market. Then, we'll look at what the source material calls the two big culprits, robots and global trade. After that, we'll get into the consequences of all this, which are pretty surprising. We're talking about more than just paychecks. And finally, we're going to look at a possible path forward for adapting to this new economy.
Okay, first things first, let's really get to the heart of the issue here. This isn't some new thing that just popped up. Nope, this is a deep, structural problem that's been building for decades. And frankly, its impact is just too big to ignore anymore.
I mean, this is the question, isn't it? This is what we really have to wrestle with. Just stop and think about that for a second. With all the progress, all the technology, all the economic growth we've had, how is it even possible that the average guy today is earning less, adjusted for inflation, than his father did? It's a massive puzzle.
And here's a really crucial point the source material makes. This isn't about men getting lazy or losing their drive. That's not what's going on. Instead, it's about these gigantic fundamental shifts in the very structure of our economy that have just happened to hit male workers especially hard.
This timeline really shows what some are calling a great divergence. I mean, look at this. Men's wages basically hit a ceiling back in the 70s and have just flatlined ever since. Meanwhile, women's wages have been climbing steadily. It's pretty wild. It's almost like men and women have been living in two completely different economies for the last 40 years.
So, what on earth is driving this massive change? Well, the sources we're looking at point to a really powerful 1-2 punch that's landed squarely on jobs traditionally held by men, and that's robots and global trade.
So on one hand, you've got automation. Robots and AI are just getting better and better at doing tasks that men used to do. And on the other hand, you've got the massive impact of free trade and global competition, which has pretty much hollowed out entire industries right here at home. It's that combination that's been so incredibly disruptive.
And this chart just lays it out so clearly. It shows exactly why men are so much more vulnerable to this automation wave. The jobs most likely to be automated, things like production, transportation, construction, are overwhelmingly male. Meanwhile, the jobs that are considered safer, like in healthcare and education, are predominantly female. That creates a huge gap in job security.
And this quote from the chief economist at the Bank of England really hits on a critical shift. The high-paying jobs of the future, they might not be just about what you know, your IQ, but more about how you interact with people, your EQ. We're talking about skills like empathy, communication, collaboration, all those so-called soft skills. They're becoming more and more valuable, and that's a total game changer for the labor market.
Now, let's talk about the second part of that 1-2 punch, global trade. Just look at this number, 2 to 3 million. That is a staggering figure. That's roughly how many US manufacturing jobs vanished in just about a decade because of competition from China. This wasn't some slow, gradual change. This was a sudden shock that absolutely devastated entire communities.
But, and this is important, the source is clear that the real impact of trade is super complicated. I mean, economists are still fiercely debating all these questions. Were new jobs created somewhere else to make up for the losses? Was it mostly just a problem for the Midwest? Are we over the China shock, or is it a permanent change? The answers are not easy, which, is why this whole topic gets so political.
And this slide right here, this points to what many see as a massive broken promise. For decades, the argument was, hey, don't worry, the people who get rich from free trade will help out the people who lose their jobs. The winners will compensate the losers. Well, that mostly never happened. The help just never really arrived, and a lot of displaced workers were simply left behind.
Okay, so we've looked at the causes, but what about the effects? What are the real-world consequences of all this? This next part digs into the impact of these economic shifts, and honestly, some of this is pretty mind-blowing. Get a load of this figure, less than 1 in 10. That is the tiny fraction of jobs in the US today that require what's officially called heavy work. Think about that. The economic value of pure physical strength, of muscle, has absolutely plummeted. It has totally changed the very nature of what it means to do a man's work.
Now, as the kind of work we do has changed, something else has changed too. Our bodies. Check out this baseline from back in 1985. Back then, your average man in his 30s had way higher grip strength, which is a great way to measure overall physical strength, than the average woman. Made sense, right?
Okay, and here is the kicker. Today, that gap is gone. Men's average grip strength has dropped like a rock, while women's has actually gone up. This isn't just some weird trivia fact. It's a really powerful symbol of how our economy is literally reshaping us, right down to our physical bodies. So the big question is, where do we go from here? The old jobs are gone, and they are not coming back. So this last section explores what a path forward might look like, how men can not just get by, but actually thrive in this new reality. You know, for years, we've had this really successful and important push to get more women into STEM fields, science, technology, engineering, and math. Well, the source material here argues that we now need a similar, massive cultural push to get more men into what it calls HEAL fields.
So what in the world are HEAL jobs? Well, it stands for health, education, administration, and literacy. And these aren't just random jobs. These are the jobs of the future. They're growing, they're much safer from automation, and they value those exact EQ and soft skills we were talking about. For a lot of men, this could be the path to a really successful career.
And so we end right here with this really crucial question. The challenge, at the end of the day, isn't about trying to bring back an economy that doesn't exist anymore. It's about adaptation. We've seen with the STEM initiative that these kinds of big cultural shifts are possible. But can we, as a society, and can men themselves, make a similar leap into these healing professions? That really is the great unanswered question for the future of male work.